Girl Man's Up by Emmy Girard is a YA novel with a butch protagonist about butchness. And that is an incredible sentence to say, and it is even more fun to say that this is a good book. This is a book that isn't really about the plot, it's about the characters, it's about the growth, it's about the experience. It's a genuine coming of age novel with teenagers that feel like real teenagers and real butch teenagers with real butch experiences. And I think authenticity is the name of the game here. In every aspect of this novel, it feels very authentic from the queerness, from the exploration of gender identity, from the exploration of sexuality, to the exploration of coming into adulthood, of having difficult family dynamics, of having difficult friend dynamics. These are real issues that real teenagers are dealing with and will be relatable to any teenager reading this, but it's especially incredible that we have this incredibly unique, specific queer perspective that does not get shown in media very much at all, and especially not in a YA book like this. I would have absolutely died to read this when I was 16 years old, like the main character of this book. I think this is such a gap in the market. I think this is so infrequently done, this kind of perspective, and I'm so glad that this was actually good. Even if it had been bad, I would have read it and been praising it for just butch representation alone, especially in this genre, in this age category. But it was so good, and it felt so real. It's really well written in this way where the prose isn't gonna knock your socks off, but it feels very authentic. The characters feel real, the emotions feel real, and it is not afraid to explore this thing that is, let's be honest, a very small percentage of the population is exactly like Penn. Even I'm not exactly like Penn, but it's done so authentically and accessibly that anyone could like this. You don't have to be butch to read this, but if you are butch, this is like, this is my dream YA novel for when I was a teenager. I would have loved this. But it didn't come out until 2016, so I was already not a teenager then. I hope kids are getting to read this now. If this had been in my school library, holy shit. I would have checked this motherfucker out 10 billion times. And I feel like this is the kind of book that gets banned. Like, if you're in a book banning zone, this one's gonna be up the list, which is a fucking shame because it's really good and it deals with topics other than gender and sexuality. Some of those are controversial as well. I'll give like slight trigger warnings for sexual assault, but it's not incredibly graphic. There's teenage pregnancy, some recreational minor drug use, alcohol use. So it would be on the chopping block for a book ban. But like, if you can read this, you absolutely should, especially if you're a kid. I don't know if there's a lot of kids watching. Go do your homework. So again, a lot of this book isn't about the plot. It's about all of the relationships in Penn's life. Our main character's name's Penn. Her relationship with her brother, with her parents. She gets a girlfriend. She gets some new friends. She has to deal with her old friend group. It's about all of those relationships, really. And again, I think all of those are authentically done. They're very individual, and they all sort of connect to form this picture of Penn's life and all of these pressures that she has on herself from all of these other people, all of these other influences. Everyone expects something different from her. Her friends expect her to act a different way than her parents expect her to act. And really, I guess the catalyst of this book is that Penn cuts her hair short. She already knows she's a lesbian. All of her friends know she's gay. But she was already gay. She was already a tomboy, sort of outsider. But really cutting her hair exacerbates all of the problems that are building in her life, that have been building, all of the friction. The truer to herself she becomes, the more people expect her to behave differently and want something different from her and dislike the person that she's becoming, even as she continues to like the person she's becoming more and more. And I think the way I'll talk about this book is I'll just go through all of the relationships in her life and talk about what I think was authentically done in terms of writing, and then also probably a lot of just what I liked about it. This might be a therapy session. I annotated this book. I read the hardcover because I prefer reading hardcovers, but I got both because it was at my library sale and it was really cheap. These were being sold at my library, which means they were taken out of circulation, which probably isn't a good sign. I don't know if they got banned. I don't even know if there's a way to look that up. Maybe just no one's checking these out, because I don't know how many butch teenagers live where I live. But I read the hardback. The paperback has some like extra content. It has a Q&A with the author, like some questions about the book and like why she chose to write something. It's kind of interesting. It has like a 2-page deleted scene with Pen and her brother, which isn't that interesting. And then it has some fan art at the back of varying quality. We'll say that. That's cute. So, like, not a lot of extra content in this if you're interested in buying this for the extra content, but cool paperback, and it's got, like, the medals on it. This did win a Lambda. William C. Morris Debut Award finalist. Never heard of that. I don't know what that is. But it's got accolades, and again, it's well written, and it deserves them, especially for highlighting such a niche point of view, this perspective, this sort of identity of growing up this way. And I love that it doesn't shy away from the authenticity of that perspective. Even if it is a rare lived experience, it is a lived experience, and it's so cool to see in books, because there aren't that many YA books with butch protagonists at all, and not very many of those are really about butchness. Maybe they're sort of subplotly about butchness, or like that sort of gender sexuality journey is a factor of it, but it's more of like a character trait while something else is going on. This is really front and center about butchness, and there are plot points, there are like conflicts that have nothing to do with like Pen necessarily. It's about the people in her life, but like the butchness is front and center. Like, girl man's up. That's the title. You know what kind of book this is gonna be. Fantastic. So anyway, we're in for a long fucking ride. And basically a therapy session. I'll probably talk, I will talk about the book, I will talk about craft, but I'll also just talk about like all the little things that I related to, and things I didn't, but things that like spoke to me, or spoke to something that I hadn't seen written before about the queer experience that maybe I don't relate to, but that like felt really authentic and relatable to someone, and that I was really happy to see like written in print in like a traditionally published, great, recognized award-winning book. So I'll start with Pen's parents, who are pretty conservative, religious Portuguese immigrants. They live in Canada. Pen was born in Canada, but her parents have sort of these traditional kind of views. They see Pen cutting her hair as embarrassing for them, like they can't control their kids. Their kids have fallen off the wagon. Her mom keeps calling her a punk druggie, even though she doesn't really do drugs. I think she like smokes a couple times, but she doesn't even smoke. Like, her friends smoke, and she ends up partaking or contact high, whatever. Her mom thinks that this is an absolute moral failing. Not at all how she expected her daughter to turn out. And they're pretty cruel. They're pretty homophobic. I guess you could say transphobic. Pen isn't trans, she's just a woman. It does talk a lot about her sort of gendered experience and how everyone treats her as if she's not a woman just because she's butch, even though she very much identifies as a woman. But she also hates when people like her mother treat her like she should be a different kind of woman. Or she's doing womanhood wrong. She's not really a woman because she's not conforming to these certain ideals and stereotypes. So even though this is a cis girl, there's a lot about gender in here, and gender identity, and sort of exploration and pondering on that, and sort of how gender is a social construct that is perceived, and how people treat you differently based on your gendered expression, even if you are just a cis woman. So her parents are absolutely not supportive at any point in this novel, and they clash a lot on basically everything. Pen can't do anything right in their eyes, kind of. They're just different people. They clash on the gender stuff, the sexuality stuff. Pen doesn't, like, I mean, I guess she sneaks out a couple of times and, like, goes to meet her friends. Her parents are on her about that. They don't want her to get a job. She ends up getting a job at a video game store because she loves video games, which is also, like, not a girly thing. Her mom tries to make her get rid of her Ninja Turtle action figures at one point. But her parents don't want her to get a job. They want her to just focus on school. They want her to do all of these certain things, and they think they're the head of the house, and it's their house, their rules. And I think one of the one of the authentic things, one of the many authentic things about this novel is that they don't really come around. There's a bit of growth, there's some compromises made, we get some more empathy from the mother, but they don't really repair their relationship, and at the end of the book, Penn ends up moving out and moving in with her older brother, Johnny, who is the only supportive person in her life. He's a great older brother, teaches her all these things, gives her hand-me-downs, and he's a landscaper who started his own business, but his parents aren't proud of him for that. They want him to go to school or to get like a good union factory job, and not start his own business, even though he's doing quite well for himself. At the start of the book, he's living in the basement of this house, in his parents' basement, but he clashes with them so much that he eventually moves out, and you get the sense that he really was only staying there for Penn because he wants to look out for his little sister. And he takes her on jobs, like teaches her things, how to work out, how to be strong. He gives her hand-me-down clothes. He really just supports whatever she's into, plays video games with her, lets her use his Xbox because she likes games. He's a really great older brother. And of course the parents are upset that he's, condoning her actions, teaching her how to be a boy or anything like that. And their relationship with him is really strained, and that also isn't really resolved by the end of the book. They sort of compromise. They live in two different places by the end. They sometimes talk to each other, sometimes see each other. The mom kind of understands that she's losing her kids and has lost this connection to them and wants to reach out, doesn't totally want to lose that. But in another YA book, and a lot of YA books, by the end of the book, the family's all hunky-dory, they're like, oh my god, I was homophobic, and now I'm not homophobic anymore, and I'm gonna be the best mom ever, and I'm so sorry, and everything's sunshine and rainbows by the end of it. This isn't like that. This is a really realistic portrayal of a family that doesn't accept you, and that you kind of just have to cut them off. And that's a real thing that a lot of teenagers, especially teenagers like this, are going to have to deal with at some point in their lives. And that's a way it pans out, and it pans out great for her. And it's really great that she has this older brother, and she gets a job, and she's sort of able to support herself, although her brother is really supporting her. But that shows a good side of family as well as a bad side of family. Another thing I liked with them, I guess I can't really speak on the authenticity of this. They are Portuguese immigrants, and they sort of speak in broken English. I can't tell you if that dialogue's well done or not, but I liked the dialogue where they start to talk in English, but then the concept they're trying to convey is too complex for their language skills, and so they revert back into Portuguese, and Penn does the translating for you, and she's sort of just telling you what her parents said. And I liked the way that was done, because that sounds really boring in a lesser author's hand. It could be like, oh, they're just summarizing the dialogue. There is actual dialogue, but any amount of dialogue that's just summarized as oh, my mom said this, and then my dad said this about how I'm a loser, that sounds like it'd be boring. It sounds like you would just want the dialogue, but I sort of liked that sort of translation experience, and I'm not the child of immigrants. I don't have that experience. I can't attest to this, but it sort of felt real, and it has a veneer of authenticity, even if it maybe isn't. But with so much else in this book being authentic, I felt that was probably realistically done. So I liked the dialogue in that way. Other points of dialogue. Some of the teen slang can be a bit cheesy. I could see someone reading this and being cheesed out, but people talked like this when I was a teenager. It's not overly done, for sure. There's one character, it's Penn's girlfriend, Blake. She has a catchphrase that she says constantly, which is wins everything. Anytime something good happens, she's like, this wins everything. And she repeats that a little too much, but that is totally realistic. And I don't think it's a writing flaw. Someone reading this, even I reading this, will be like, can you stop saying that, girl? But she's an annoying 16-year-old, so she's gonna keep saying her weird catchphrase. And I don't think that's a writing flaw, because she's really the only character that does that, and the author's sort of aware of it. There's a point where they're doing a group project, and she's really proud of it, and she's like, this is gonna win everything. And someone else is like, I don't think it's a competition, I don't think we can win anything. And Penn is like, she just talks like that. So the author's sort of self-aware. There's one other friend character who keeps saying, the shiz, He's a cornball. But I think the teenage slang in this is done fairly well. It's not overly done. It will probably be dated. The more time goes on, the more dated it will get, but it's not too bad. I don't think at any point this will be completely unreadable for future generations. But I think that's a fairly realistic choice to put in some of that, but not go overboard with it and like not make it too realistic. Because I'm sure I was saying some weird cringy shit when I was 15 that I don't want to read about or hear again. Then I'll talk about the lesbian relationship in this, which is kind of almost not like the main plot. Like, this isn't a romance novel. They meet pretty early on, and they're a really cute couple. So Penn and Blake. Blake is another girl at Penn's school, and she's also into video games. She works at the video game store. That's where they really meet and like talk for the first time, and they bond over video games. And Blake's really outgoing and like femme and like kind of like a little bit goth or alternative. She's a singer in a band. She's just very confident, and she knows what she likes. And she's not afraid to be out. I guess she's bi. She even talks about how, there's a quote, I'm not gonna find it because I annotated too much. I don't even annotate books, really. Unless I'm reading an ebook, but like, I don't think I've fucking ever annotated a physical copy. But there's a line about how she likes butches and like masculine women, and she likes boys, but she likes girls who are trying to be boys even better. I don't remember if that's the exact phrasing. That sounds bad, but in context it's like it works. And like, so she's this really like good femme character for like a butch femme dynamic, and you really see why they get along. And they're not just dating because they're the only two gay women in this novel, even though they're the only two gay women in this novel. Oh, but they actually have things in common. They have chemistry. They're really cute, and they're like, they look out for each other pretty well. I mean, they're 16, so it's not like, I don't know, the greatest romance of all time. But like, for 16-year-olds, very, very cute. The first love relationship here. They do end up sleeping together, and like, it's obviously not graphic because it's a YA novel, but like there is a sex scene. There's a butch sex scene in my YA novel. Hello? And it's actually good. And there's like real butch shit in this. I'll read you some quotes. She's got almost no clothes on. I'm still in most of mine. Usually I can get her to stop trying to turn the focus on me by ramping up my game. Can I touch you? She asks. Not for the first time this week. Yeah, because we've been at it for an hour and she knows I'm weak right about now. Maybe not. I don't know. Say I was okay with you touching me, but I wanted you to touch me the way you touch a guy. Would that make sense? Totally, she says. And like, there's other scenes like in their first kiss and like where they're sort of fooling around, building up to this. This is the very end of the book. Spoilers. But like, butch sex in my YA novel? Hello? I don't even get like good butch sex in like most of the adult novels I'm reading, even like the smut books, because there aren't that many butches. And like, when there is, they rarely talk about like the butchness. Like, the butchness is so front and center here, and it's so nice, and it's so just like on the fucking page, and it's on the fucking nose, and it slaps. It's fucking good. Again, if I had read that when I was 16, hell yeah. You would not have gotten me to shut the fuck up about this book. I would have been making all my friends read this, because I had a good friend group. I gotta stop holding this one up because there's like a glare. That's why I have the paperback in this. I had a much better friend group in high school than Penn did. So Penn does become friends with a different friend group by the end of this book. But we first see Penn with this group of guys, and they feel like an authentic group of fucking douchebag teenage boys. And really only one of them, Colby, is super important. I guess one of the others is important at the end because he kind of comes around to Penn's side and all of this drama. And I would say the drama between Colby and Penn is like the plot of the book. And I mean like the drama with her parents as well. But like, Colby is a real instigator of a lot of the drama in Penn's life. But we've got this group of guys, and there's the new guy, Garrett, I think, who is like the worst of the bunch, and he always makes all these jabs about Penn being a girl, and like, when she wins at video games against him, it's like, oh, she's cheating, she's a girl, really low-hanging fruit. And all the guys are like, yeah, he's kind of a dumbass, but like we keep him around because I think he brings them weed or something. And he's like the new guy in the group. They don't really like him, but like whatever, he's there. And then you have Tristan, who's just a follower. These guys are pretty distinct in their personalities, despite again not being major parts of the plot, the book, of Pen's life even. Oh, but Tristan's the follower, so when Girard will start picking on Pen for like being a girl and like saying all these really low hanging sexist jokes and stuff, Tristan will join in just because he's a follower and he wants to be liked, and that's just kind of his personality. And then you have Colby, who initially stands up for Pen. At first, you kind of like this guy. Colby is her long term best friend. I think they're like neighbors, so like they've known each other forever and ever. And Colby's like, stop, cut this shit out. Like, stop with this stupid fucking girl jokes. Like, we've all heard these before. They're not even funny. So at first you're like, good on Colby. But as the book progresses, you realize that Colby is the worst of all. He's like the popular kid in school, and he's really hot. He gets all the girls. He's super cool. And he kind of flexes that social power. Like, he's a douchebag about it, and he talks about how everyone in their friend group needs loyalty and needs their role and serves their place. And he's kind of the ringleader. And he acts like he's the big guy in charge. And he kind of is, because they all sort of follow him. And, like, Garrett gets him weed, Tristan is his yes man, and Pen helps him get girls. So Colby's a big player, has all of these girls, is always flirting, and he has a scheme where he gets Pen to go up to a girl and initiate a conversation and then sort of bring her into the group. Because, you know, the girls don't want to approach a group of just guys, but if there's another girl there, then she feels more comfortable, and then Colby can talk to her and take her home, do his thing. But when Pen cuts her hair, she is now perceived very, very differently by these women, and these women are sort of hesitant of her. They don't see her as the girl, like this safe space in this group of people that they can perfectly connect to and like have an ally in. They treat her differently, and therefore she becomes worse at picking up girls for Colby, and then Colby gets mad at her because he's not getting laid as much. And he's a douchebag, so he's sort of secretly kind of in this relationship, not relationship, with this girl at their school, Olivia. Olivia also becomes a major player in this. So Colby, he's like a tough guy, you know, he doesn't want to tie himself down to any of these girls, so he's just like hooking up with them. But he's like secretly kind of has feelings for Olivia and like keeps seeing her even after he's talking all this trash about her, about how she got clingy and then he threw her away for another girl. And she keeps bothering him, and he doesn't even care about her, but like he is still secretly talking to her and not telling Pen about it or anybody. And Pen gets dragged into this mess, and Olivia is like this really sort of nice, shy, sweet girl who is very upset by Colby's douchebaggery. And really, when we first meet Olivia, she is throwing up in the school bathroom in the morning. I wonder what that's about. It does take Pen a little too long to pick up on the fact that Olivia is clearly fucking pregnant, because you know it immediately, and I'm like, girl, connect some dots here. It's 2 plus 2. And then the book does a fake out thing where Pen eventually does bring it up, and Olivia's like, no, I'm not pregnant. And I'm like, oh, I was wrong, that's crazy. That's interesting, but it turns out she just tested too early, so she got a negative test, but she is pregnant. And then there's, again, an authentic storyline where she has to figure out how to have an abortion without her parents knowing, without Colby knowing. She's sort of lied to him and told him that she isn't pregnant, even when she knows that she is, because he's basically said, like, I don't care, figure it out, it's not mine, I'm mad at you. Because she initially told him when she first thought she was, before she got the negative test, and then he blew up at her, and then she got the negative test and was like, no, it's fine, it was just a scare. But he's like, no, like, fuck you for even pretending to be pregnant or like worrying me about this. Like, that's your problem, you shouldn't worry me about it. So Colby's a douchebag. And I think also authentically, at first Pen is a douchebag because she's Colby's best friend. And she knows that Colby is like super stressed about this. He's like taking it out on their friend group because he's all mad and frustrated and angry and a dick. And so she's like, Olivia is causing problems in my friend group. This is just some fucking girl. I don't know her. I don't care about her. Like, leave Colby out of this. I want my best friend back. Stop messing things up. which is obviously a dick move, but she obviously grows over the course of the book. Olivia is one of Blake's best friends, and so Penn ends up hanging out with her more throughout the novel, and also, like, just keeps running into her. They go to the same school. They always end up meeting in the bathroom because Olivia's always sick. And slowly over time, she starts to become more sympathetic to Olivia's plight, especially as Colby grows to be more of a dick, and Penn realizes that her best friend is kind of not a good person, and she shouldn't really just be sucking up to him just because they've been friends for so long. And eventually, at the end of the book, Penn ends up going with Olivia to the abortion clinic and, like, helps her through that and helps her get home, helps her make that decision and, you know, do everything safely and privately. And she's a really good supportive friend by the end of this, and I think that's a really important storyline for kids to read at this age, because that happens, that's the thing. Again, another reason why this book might be banned. Oh no, a person getting an abortion, horrendous. And then I also liked the resolution of Olivia versus Colby. So they have an opportunity, they're doing this, like, school photo project. They have an opportunity to sort of put him on blast or call him out because they have this photo of him, and they can make it say whatever they want, right? They're putting text on these photos for the project. And Penn leaves that up to Olivia. Like, does she want revenge? How does she want to enact this revenge? And she kind of doesn't. She's just like, nah, I'm not going to use this as ammunition. I'm not going to start this big drama fight. I'm not going to get back at him. I just want my life. I want to be done with this man, and I want to move on with my life. And so she doesn't get that revenge, but she gets sort of that peace of mind, and she's the bigger person in this scenario. And she ends up getting a new boyfriend who's one of the bandmates of Blake's in this band. And that's cute, and he really cares about her, and it's a better relationship than she had with Colby. And so she's able to grow as this person. But again, in another YA novel, there's, like, this big blow-up scene where she puts Colby on blast in front of the whole school, and everyone knows all of his dirty laundry and makes fun of him, and, you know, he runs away with his tail between his legs, and they get this cathartic moment. And I kind of was expecting that. I don't think that resolution would have been a bad thing, and this resolution almost in the moment feels like a little disappointing because you are expecting that, but reflecting on it, I mean, she's in a good place. She's gonna continue on with her life and be happier that way and not drag the situation out, and I think that works for her, and that's her choice, and that's just sort of the person she is, that she isn't this revenge hellbent person. So I really liked her character, even though at first Penn is awful to her, and everyone's sort of awful to her except Blake. But she comes around and she ends up having this really good YA coming of age storyline of her own. There is one aspect of this that probably did need better resolution than it got. So trigger warning for minor sexual assault, not graphic, doesn't go very far. So Colby actually hits on Penn a couple of times. There are two instances of this. One of them is in the past, and then one of them happens at the very beginning of this novel, where Colby kisses her without her consent, and she's obviously not reciprocating this. And she feels very weird about it, and that's the day she goes home and cuts her hair off, and sort of wants to feel like this person that she truly is, and to reflect herself outwardly how she feels inwardly, because she doesn't want to give off these mixed signals that she's, like, too girly, if she's the type of girl that Colby would like. And then prior to that kiss, there's a moment where he tries to put his hand down her pants. So he repeatedly makes her feel uncomfortable in that way. But it's not something that Penn dwells on for extended periods of time. It's not something that, like, has really broken her down and that, like, she keeps reminding herself of throughout the novel. She sort of talks about them as they happen and right after they happen, but it's not something that ever really comes up in a big way, even though it's a big thing. Or it could be, I guess, I mean, I'm not saying Penn has to be completely, totally, irrevocably traumatized by this, but it is a major thing. And I think it would have been better if it had been addressed at the end. Like, there's a final confrontation between Colby and Penn where they're just alone talking things out and basically go their separate ways, where she probably should have brought this up and like told him like, that wasn't cool, I didn't like that, you crossed the line, but she doesn't really bring it up. And I think for a YA novel with kids reading this, I think I would have liked that to have been brought up at least a bit. It doesn't have to dominate the narrative. It doesn't have to be this incredibly traumatic thing for her. But if she had just said, hey, not cool, like, fuck you for doing that, on top of all the other bullshit you did that they do talk about, that was a major thing. So I wish that had been discussed more at the end. I think it would have been good for kids to see that sort of explicitly shot down and called out. Which, I mean, it's not treated like a good thing. Like, in the moments when it happens, Penn is very upset and is, like, obviously very uncomfortable and stops him and tells him she is not interested. So, like, it's fine. But I think more could have been done, and that could have been a little bit more profound and, like, heightened, like, another theme for this book. You get what I'm saying? But another authenticity point surrounding that is, like, the conversation they sort of have immediately after, is it after that first incident? Or I don't even know. Like, I think Garrett, or one of the guys, brings up, oh, if Penn fucked one of us, would that be gay? Cause she's so masked. Cause she's so masked that it would be, like gay male sex, rather than a man and a woman in a straight relationship. And, like, as douchey as that is, I really liked that conversation. I feel like it's done really authentically to these characters and, like, teenagers, but it's also such a fucking niche queer experience that's, like, a real fucking conversation. Because even Penn is like, that would be kind of gay. Like, that's homo in a way that I am not. Like, I don't want to be seen as a gay man. And, like, she's also sort of, it has internalized homophobia about this, because they're sort of, in this moment, seeing her as a gay man, and she doesn't want to be perceived that way. And she says, like, I'm not a homo, as in, like, a gay man, which, like, problematic to say, but she's a fucking teenager who's surrounded by these dumbass teenagers, terrible friend group, who probably say things like that all the time. So it makes sense that she would think of that in that way and, like, say that, especially to them, in words that they would understand. And she doesn't want to be seen as a gay man in the same way that she doesn't want to be seen as a straight woman. And, like that sort of gender dysphoria, or, like, sexuality dysphoria sort of thing, of that mistaken identity crisis, like, really, like, hits her in a way she doesn't like. And then when Colby, like, hits on her, she's like, I didn't know you were a homo. Like, you're gay. Like, you're gay if you like me. And, like what a niche queer experience for, like, this straight, like, this straight hypothetical coupling would be seen in this queer light just because of Penn's gendered presentation. That, like, it kind of is kind of gay. Like, in a way. I saw a Tumblr post the other day that was like, a man and a woman can be gay for each other if they're both bisexual and their genders are weird enough, which I get it, why not? So, surprising lore, backstory, I have always been interested in stories where a man falls in love with a lesbian. Some of that might be because the very first, like, openly gay book with actual explicit lesbian characters I ever read was Hard Love by Ellen Whitlinger. This was in my middle school library, and I checked it out a million times, and I've read this book probably, like, 10 times. It's my favorite book. Some of that is nostalgia, but also I read it, like, less than 2 years ago, and it really holds up as a great novel. This is about a teenage boy who's, like, a loner and an outcast, and he meets this really cool lesbian, and he falls for her and becomes friends with her, and she's, like, his only friend. And obviously, the crush is not reciprocated, but they have this very intense, close friendship that affects them both in this way, but also in different ways because they are perceiving this relationship differently. And he eventually has to deal with the heartbreak of that, and they sort of stop being friends because there's this rift between them. Great book, also authentic teenagers, told just from the boy's perspective, but I still really recommend this book. Also a Lambda winner. But I think this inadvertently ignited my lifelong fascination with men in love with lesbians. That fascination's too strong of a word there, but I do like stories like that. Like I like the movie Chasing Amy, which is a product of its time. Some of that doesn't hold up, about a man who falls in love with a lesbian, but she's sort of still questioning her identity and ends up with him. So is like maybe bisexual, but is identifying as a lesbian at the start of the book. Again, you could have some problems with that movie, but like I sort of like that storyline. I've always found myself fascinated with that. And then in high school, I did have a boy best friend who liked me, and obviously was not reciprocated, but it was this weird sort of intimate friendship situationship thing. And like if he and I had gotten together, that would have been a little bit gay. Also, he was bi, and did once tell me that he kind of felt more like a girl than a guy. So like there might have been some egg things going on there. I don't know. I'll never know. He's dead. But I sort of had a Colby. But he wasn't a jackass at this time, and he didn't assault me. But I liked seeing this guy like have a crush on his butch best friend, and like sort of knowing that was gay. Like there's a conversation like where they're talking about that. Like he's like, yeah, it's gay, but then he's like flirting with her, and he's like, it's not gay. You're a woman. You know, it's not gay if I'm flirting with you. Like it's kind of gay, but it's not really gay. And she's like, nah, man, you're fucking gay. She's like, cut the gay shit. I'm not gay. You're gay. And so like I feel like that's also a niche experience of like this sort of boy being insecure in his sexuality, and like I don't know. I really like that storyline, and it's so fucking niche. Probably not what most of you want to hear about, but like I like that. I mean, obviously he's a dickbag, and like I'm not rooting for them to be friends by the end of this. I was very glad that she dumped him, and I'm not like I don't want them to pursue a relationship, but like that dynamic and like the uncomfortableness of that, and the insecurity that comes with that, and the weird perceptions and the weird like these underdeveloped juvenile insecurities about gender and sexuality and attraction, and what does that mean, and like all of these fuzzy lines about queerness, and how it's more than just like being gay, and like how your gender presentation, not even your gender presentation can play into perceptions of that, and like how other people look at you, or even how you look at your own relationship. And it's like it's so niche and like so like authentically queer in my YA novel. What a concept. What a great book. Maybe I'll just like read some quotes. That's like all the plot points. So like that's the book. I can't really, I mean, I spoiled the book, I guess, but like you can't really spoil this book because it isn't plot based. You're just here for like the vibes and like watching this girl grow and like have these like real authentic teenage experiences, and like this is like real representation, like for teenagers, for butch teenagers. Like this is representation done right, and it's not just like there's a gay kid over there, or like this is a teenager, therefore this is teenage representation. Like this is like actual realistic real life depictions of what could be real people, and I just like it. And I marked down all these quotes, so I might as well read some. I don't know, I highlighted so many things, and some of them are like cute stuff between Penn and Blake, and then there's just like all these like just authentic fucking butch insights. Here's the gay conversation. I think Garrett's right. This whole thing is gay. Like, homo gay. I like girls. Girly girls. I don't like guys, and I didn't think you did either. Colby puts his hands on his knees and his features drop. Don't try to act like I'm a fag. You're a girl. You've always been a girl. You kiss like a girl. Get over yourself, Penn. You don't get to be a guy now just because you look like that. You better watch yourself for real. You don't want to be on my bad side. What a bad boy. What a fucking hard guy. Oh, here's a line. Are you afraid you're gonna find out you're bi or something? No, I know what I'm into. And that's really refreshing. I mean, I like a good coming out book where a character realizes they're gay, but that's like the staple of the gay YA genre. And like, I just like characters who have known they were gay, have been out, just know who they are already. Because that was my experience. And I know a lot of people didn't know that, and a lot of people did just come out in high school. But I love seeing a character who is assured of their sexuality at this age. This is more stuff about the Colby situation. It was a huge deal because I felt like a homo. For the first time ever, I felt really queer in a bad way. His hands were on me and the feeling got worse. The feeling I get when I see myself naked in the mirror, that feeling times 100. He touched me and I turned into the kind of girl I'm not. So that's like a really touching depiction of like this sort of assault. There's a scene here where some dudes are being jerks in the mall and asking her if she's packing, and she doesn't even know what that means at first, and then she Googles it, and learns what packing is. There's a scene here where Penn talks about how going to the bathroom in public is awkward, and that she should have gone before she went home, so that she just didn't have to deal with it. There's stuff online about trans people in bathrooms. That's what would come up when I'd searched about people who avoid public bathrooms. A couple of years ago, I used to be like, but I'm not trans, so why are people still jerks when I try to go take a piss? Then I realized I don't have to be trans to still confuse people with the way I look. I had my hair then. Now there's nothing left that makes me a girl except for the fact that I am one, but I guess that's not enough. Yeah, this is stuff that could be written a different way, like way too on the nose, and like it's just trying to hit all the points of like this is the queer experience, queer 101, being a butch lesbian 101. But it doesn't feel like that. She's just like a real kid living her life, and this is just like the shit that she has to deal with while she's trying to live her life and do other things. And that is a real thing. I also tried to avoid public restrooms because you get some weird looks. My trick is to always make sure my bra strap is showing. I'm not wearing one right now, but I'm always like, oh my god, my bra strap is showing. That's so embarrassing, right, ladies? Fellow ladies? Oh my god, don't you hate it when that happens? Oh my god, the struggles of being a woman. This is right after she first cuts her hair, and she's at school looking in her locker, in the mirror in her locker. I smile because it's my real face in there. It's pretty sweet to see what I'm supposed to look like. Even if it's the ugliest haircut I've ever seen, it makes my face seem more legit somehow. Because at that point, she cuts her own hair, and it like doesn't turn out great, and her brother helps her clean it up. But as a butch who cuts their own hair, it's fucking ugly, but like there's pride in cutting your own hair. It doesn't look good, but like you feel good about it. So like there you go, real butch shit. Here's a romance scene where Penn will not make the first move with Blake. Blake is like clearly flirting with her, like they're clearly like on a date. But Penn is like, nah, I'm not like Colby. I'm not gonna like prey on this woman. I don't want to be like the predator, like over enthusiastic about it or like pressuring her. And so Blake always has to make the first move. I lost the quote, but Blake's like, you're not gonna try anything, are you? They've been like hanging out all day, and Blake's like, you're not gonna try anything, are you? Like she's been trying to get Penn to kiss her like all day. And then Blake has to take the reins. So she's kind of like, I don't think she's the top, but like that sort of top personality of like the dom femme. I don't know if I can describe a 16-year-old as a dom femme, but like you kind of get what I mean. This is her mom trying to give her girly clothes. I'd rather be a guy than be a girl who wears those shirts, I say. I'd rather be a guy than be a lady like you. I'm not a lady. I'm just whatever, Ma. I'm whatever. Leave me alone. I'm whatever. The author's note did talk about how some people kind of read Penn as genderqueer, like some kids reading this, and she's like, you can imagine Penn whatever you want. Like that's sort of like genderqueer. Although Penn does repeatedly say that she is a girl and she feels like a girl and she's not trans. But even the author was like, if a trans kid is reading this and sort of identifying with this, like they can project what they want onto it. Because she wants them to have this story, and they absolutely could relate to this, I think. And then also, like, Penn's 16, like, maybe when they're older, they discover something else about their gender. They want to explore something more than just being cis. Who knows, right? Oh, this is for the end. Penn puts on, like, her mom's clothes and is, like, fully in a dress to, like, show her mom that, like, hey, this is what you want me to look like? I look like a freak. And even her mom is like, yeah, this is weird, like, that's not you. She doesn't, like, admit that outright, but she yells at Penn for stealing her clothes and, like, trying to look bad on purpose when really she's just wearing her mom's clothes. And she's like, this is the daughter you want? She says, I'm in drag right now. I'm a homo right now. This is worse than a Halloween costume because it's not funny. Which, again, like, I mean, problematic language, but she's a kid with problematic friends, and that was how they would talk. And I imagine as Penn grows and, like, becomes more connected to the queer community, because she has, like, no other queer people in her life until she meets Blake. So I'm sure that sort of language would phase out of her, and she's not doing it maliciously, and the author's not doing it maliciously. The author's doing it authentically, because I believe that this person in this friend group who has been around this language would use that language and not really think about the problems associated with it. What else? How long can this video be? Let's see how long my camera lasts. I keep all these fucking tabs and I keep, like, going back to the same ones. Oh, this is when she's meeting Blake and talking about Blake. I think maybe she could be my girlfriend. I don't want to be her girlfriend, though. But there's this part of me that totally knows I could be her boyfriend. I don't want her to think of me as a boy or a boy substitute, though. I want to be a boyfriend who is a girl. I have no idea how to explain that stuff to anyone, let alone a girl I like. I just wish it was already all understood. That's real Butch shit. In my YA novel. Like, what a fucking trip to see this, like, explicitly spelled out. In a fucking book, in a fucking YA novel. Just awesome representation. Like you don't read this shit. Okay, this line's, like, stupid, but Penn really is, like, a teenage boy. She's not a boy, clearly. But, like, she thinks like a teenage boy sometimes. Like, you can, like, see the influence, and, like, she'll even make, like, sort of sexist comments sometimes. There's a point where she's like, I'm totally being a girl about this. Here she's thinking about Blake, so, like, now in my mind, she's in the shower, and she's naked, and there are soap suds everywhere. It's awesome. I'm like, what a fucking 16-year-old line. Here's another, like, Butch shit. Usually I don't check myself out in the mirror, mostly because without clothes on, I weird myself out. Maybe everyone thinks they look funny naked. My body is fine, I guess, but I wouldn't want anyone to see it, especially not Blake. Not, like, with the lights on, at least. And it doesn't have anything to do with the fact that I'm sort of pudgy. When I have my clothes on, I feel normal. When my clothes aren't on, it's like I lose something important about myself. When I think about someone else seeing me like this, it feels like they'd actually be seeing some other person. Like it wouldn't be me they'd be looking at. It's not like I want to be looking at a boy's body in the mirror. It's just that a girl's body is so girl. But shit, in my YA novel, this is when she's trying to talk to a straight girl at the mall to get her to come over to talk to Colby. But she has short hair now in this interaction. This girl has no idea how to talk to me. I'm used to people staring at me, trying to figure out what my deal is. Ever since I started swiping clothes from my brother Johnny's closet, people have been reacting differently to me. I used to wear jeans and plain t-shirts, and I've always hung around guys, so people just figured I was a tomboy. But now it's like it goes beyond that, and I'm sure it's not just because Johnny's clothes are name brand and sweet as hell. I don't really know what people think I am, or what they think I'm not. Like, yeah, like, the change in perspective of how people see you when you present a different way. And then the dumbass 16-year-old line where she's like, my brother's clothes are name brand, it's sweet as hell. Although this shirt's like a Tony Hawk shirt. It says like Tony Hawk on the back. Where's it at? It's over here. This says Tony Hawk on the back. That's sweet as hell. Unironically, I would say that. Did I get this from my brother? It might have been my dad's. I wear a lot of hand-me-down clothes. So yeah, I also relate to wearing my male family members' clothes and having short hair that doesn't look good, but that I like. Here's where she's just first, like, starting to talk to Blake. I follow Blake to her locker. For just a second, it's almost like I'm walking my girlfriend to her locker. I'd carry her books if she let me. I wonder what she sees when she looks at me. Outside of school, outside of her basement, surrounded by regular people, by her friends, by tall dudes with beards, she'll realize I'm not a guy. She'll also realize I'm not exactly a girl either. But shit, in my YA novel? Just because she cuts her hair doesn't make her any less of a girl, Colby says. I look over at him, not sure if what he said is a compliment or an insult. Maybe it's nothing at all. I just want to see some boobs, Garrett says. Dude, screw off. Why don't you show us your junk, huh? He looks interested. What, you want to see it? I'll show you mine if you show me yours. Gross. I sort of like the authenticity of, like, these gross male conversations, because it sort of feels like she's really in the room with these guys, and they sort of treat her like another guy. Sort of the locker room talk of what happens when girls aren't around, and Penn's not quite a girl, and so she's privy to these absolutely disgusting conversations between these douchebag 16-year-olds. Okay, so would it be gay if Penn screwed a guy? Think about it for a minute. Would it be gay? It's confusing, am I right? Garrett says. Garrett, man, you're so pathetic, Colby says. This is legit, Garrett says. It's research. Research for who, I say? For me, it's a personal project. For real, though, would it be gay? I think it would be, especially if the guy were to call you Steve while it was going down. He has this thing where he calls her Steve. That's stupid. I should probably wrap this up. I don't know why, let's just drag this video out, why not? And this is Olivia talking about how, like, she can keep her pregnancy a secret because, like, no one knows, she's not showing yet. But Penn can't keep the shameful thing about her secret. If they knew my secret, if they could see it, they'd be awful to me. Right now they can't tell, so I'm safe, she says. You're not safe ever, are you? People can always tell with you. Yeah. Did you look like a boy when you were little, she asked. Pretty much. You're not a boy though, right? Nope, I say. Sometimes I think things would probably be easier if I was. How do you know you're not a boy, she asks. It's hard to come up with an answer to her question. When I think about that stuff in my own head, I don't usually end up anywhere because I don't ever think it through to the end. Everything's always made me wonder if I was supposed to be a boy. When I was really little, I even thought maybe I was born one, and then some weird circumcision disaster happened and my parents decided to take home a little girl instead. But the older I got, the less that made sense to me. Because I don't feel wrong inside myself. I don't feel like I'm someone I shouldn't be. Only other people make me feel like there's something wrong with me. Damn. Bullshit? Like, genuine, like, authentically queer gender exploration in my YA novel? Ooh, another part where she's talking about, like, not making a move on Blake. I also think that if I were a guy, I probably would have made a move by now. The thing is, I have no idea if I should be making a move or not. It's not clear what's going on. The rules are clear when it's boy-girl. If I was a dude, I'd probably be saying something to make her smile and blush, like, how am I supposed to kick ass at this game when you're all pressed up against me smelling like that? And then maybe I'd touch her on purpose, trying to get her to make eye contact with me so I could see what's reflected there, which is how I know she's into it. But this, the way things are because it's me, well, it's all blurry to me. Genuine butch anxiety about relationships in my YA novel? Here they're making out. I sort of know her rhythm and what she likes, and well, what she likes is what I like. Service tops in my YA novel? There's another discussion about packing, even though it's from the douchebag Garrett. He's like, it's not like I can see a package hanging there, but maybe you picked a small one to wear so people wouldn't be able to notice, right? You must be packing a pretty huge one, huh, to be able to nail a girl like that. So, like, a douchebag, but, like, talking about packing in my YA novel? We scramble around the room because Blake lost her shirt last night and that black bra, man, that was awesome. And I'm only in a muscle top and jeans, which isn't something I meant to happen in the daylight because I think my boobs are bigger than Blake's. Big boob butches in my YA novel? I think we've descended into, madness. We need to stop. We're an hour and 20 minutes in. Why did I do that? So long. It's a good book though. There's a lot to talk about. I didn't talk about myself as much as I thought I would, so you're welcome. But what a great book. Highly recommend this. If you are butch, I think you'll like this. Even if you're not 16 years old, which you're probably not. I am also not 16 years old. I think this will be the book teenage you wants to read. This will heal a small part of yourself. And even as an adult, just the representation is honestly really nice and really cute and like authentic. It's just fucking authentic, and I loved this. I think this was this author's debut. It's really good, and again, like, the prose isn't out of this world. It's not, like, gonna blow your mind, just in terms of, like, quality and similes and metaphors and allegories. But everything's just right on the page, but it's done just so authentically well, and, like, the dialogue feels realistic, the pacing's really nice, the characters are really deep and nice. Even when they're terrible, they're real. So, like, it's just a great book. I highly recommend this. Girl Man's Up by M.E. Girard. If you are butch or want to know anything about the butch experience and, like, what it's like to live like that, this is a great insight. And, like, you will see yourself reflected in this. And, like, even if you're not butch, but, like, if you're an out queer kid, like, you would relate to some of these struggles and, like, how people treat you for being out. And knowing yourself, and it's not a coming out story. If you're looking for a YA novel that is not a coming out story, but is deeply, deeply inextricably queer and about queerness and centered around queerness and not just like a side plot or like one aspect of a story about something else or like a romance queer plot. Like this is, it's just a queer book about queerness. Banger. 5 stars. Hell yeah. Also beautiful cover. Gorgeous. Look at the pen. That's a Butch. That's my Butch. Like this cool red background. What a cool guy. And the awards look good on there. What a cover. Great cover. Read the book. Big recommend. Imagine a mostly sapphic book seal of approval. It's meaningless, but you have it. Hell yeah.